Thank you everyone for joining us today for the second in a series of webinars brought to you by the Wisconsin School of Business in partnership with the Center for Professional and Executive Development. My name is John Zalewski. I'm the Director of Learning Development here at the Wisconsin School of Business Center for Professional and Executive Development, or CPED for short, and I'll be the host for today's program. CPED partners with individuals and organizations to enhance performance and productivity through short courses, certificates, coaching, consulting, and assessments. More than 70 programs are delivered annually on site at the Fluno Center here in beautiful downtown Madison by Wisconsin School of Business faculty and other instructors with practical real-world experience. CPED also partners with organizations throughout the world to provide customized development programs. For more information on the Center for Professional and Executive Development, please visit our website at uwcped.org. Today's webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to access it again later. You will also receive a survey following today's webinar, and we ask that you take a few minutes to complete it. Your feedback is critically important as we strive to deliver content that is meaningful and relevant to you. So again, please do take a few minutes to complete that survey when you receive it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shannon Tim with the Wisconsin School of Business. Shannon?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Shannon Tim, and I'm the Director of Alumni Relations here at the Wisconsin School of Business, where we have more than 44,000 alumni around the globe. It's our mission to keep you informed and connected to your alma mater, and we do that through things like events, communications like Update Magazine, and professional development opportunities like this webinar. I will share that it's been really exciting to launch this series with CPED because we recognize that learning doesn't stop when you leave campus. This is the second in our series, as John mentioned, so if you missed the first one on Change Agility, head over to our website and you can view a recorded version there. In addition, there's a lot of great resources and content on our website, including ways to get involved. So check out wsb.wisc.edu/alumni for more information. Before we jump into the content of today's webinar, I wanted to give you a brief update on things happening here at the school. So first and foremost, we are really excited to be welcoming Vallabh Sambamurthy as the next Albert O. Nicholas Dean at the school. Dean Samba will be officially joining us in just a few short weeks, but he's already been spending a lot of time behind the scenes, meeting with campus officials, as well as faculty and staff here at the school. He's recognized as an expert on how businesses compete in the digital economy and brings great experience to us from Michigan State University, where he served as Associate Dean for their MBA programs. We're really thrilled to have him, and I know that he's looking forward to getting started. So if you're interested about reading more about Dean Samba's background, you can do so at go.wisc.edu/Samba. I'm also really happy to announce that Dean Samba will be hitting the road this fall to meet alumni across the country. You'll see a list of events that are currently scheduled, as well as information around homecoming, which is a great time of the year to come back to campus, as well as information about our next webinar. We'll be sending more information about all these events, but we hope to see you there. Finally, a great way to stay up to date on everything that's going on at the school is to follow us on social media. So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. With that, thanks again for joining us today. And I'm going to turn it back over to John to get us started.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm going to introduce our presenter in just a moment, but before I do, I just want to take a brief moment to explain some of the functionality of the webinar platform. You'll see this panel on your screen. Near the bottom, you'll see a questions box. If you have questions at any time during today's presentation, please type them here. They'll be sent privately to our producer and will not be visible to everyone else. At a few points during today's session, we will ask for your participation and input, and you'll use the same question box to provide that input. If you want to minimize the panel, or if it's already minimized, you can simply click on that orange arrow in the upper left, and then click that orange arrow again to bring the panel back. Now I'd like to introduce Tracy Nelson. Tracy is the Vice President of Talent Solutions at the Center for Professional and Executive Development, as well as adjunct faculty at the Wisconsin School of Business. Tracy has more than 30 years of experience in organizational development, training, and talent management. She manages the center's non-credit learning portfolio, assists in creating and developing new courses, and ensures the center is meeting the needs of lifelong learners. Tracy was one of the first in the nation to earn the Certified Professional in Learning and Performance designation through the Association of Talent Management. And while serving as Vice President of Learning and Development for a Madison-based financial institution, her team twice earned the International ATD Best Award, which recognizes organizations that demonstrate enterprise-wide success as a result of employee talent development. Tracy holds a bachelor's degree in organizational communication from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire and a Master of Science in Organizational Development from Edgewood College. And she's also the Vice President of Community Outreach on the Executive Board of Directors for the Greater Madison Society of Human Resource Management. And with that, Tracy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you all for joining us today to talk about this very important topic. Savvy organizational leaders know that business strategy alone isn't enough to succeed in today's competitive landscape, and research is showing workplace culture is a key focus right now for organizations. Most leaders understand that their people are their biggest assets and that organizational culture is important to achieving company objectives. In an era of heightened corporate transparency, greater workforce mobility, and severe skills shortages, culture, engagement, and retention have emerged as top issues for business leaders. According to Deloitte's 2015 Global Human Capital Trends Survey, culture and engagement is the most important issue companies face around the world, recently rising to the #1 issue. In a recent study by Booz & Company, 84% of respondents indicated they believe their organization's culture is critical to business success, and 60% said culture was even more important than the company's strategy or operating model. So culture is so much more than a corporate buzzword. It influences the performance of individual employees and teams and can be key to your ability to attract and retain talent in your organization. This means that cultivating a strong and constructive workplace culture can make a big difference in how well your organization performs and grows. Well, we have just a short 45 minutes together today, leaving time for some questions at the end to cover a very broad and important topic. So here are some of the key topics that we will be highlighting today in our limited time together. We'll start by defining workplace culture and exploring why it really matters to organizations. We will consider how culture and strategy need to work hand in hand to impact performance at both the organizational and the team level. We will highlight some notable organizations that have leveraged their culture to differentiate their business and attract talent. We will share examples of tools that can be used to measure culture and to identify cultural strengths, barriers, and opportunities. And lastly, we will wrap up by highlighting key factors to consider when undergoing cultural transformation. As we dive into this very broad topic, let's take just a moment to align on what we mean by culture. Again, it is a broad and somewhat vague term and often defined in different ways. So at this point, I'm going to ask for your input on how you would define culture. Please take a moment to type your thoughts on this into the question box, and I'll share a few examples as they're coming in. So how would you describe culture? Okay, I'm seeing how it feels to work for a company, attitude, environment, and norms, the work atmosphere, the way things get done. Culture is like engagement, attitudes, norms, expected behaviors, how a group interacts with each other, the set of expectations, written or unwritten, sets of values. Good. Those are all good thoughts on how to define culture. Edgar Schein is a former professor of MIT Sloan School of Management and is well known for his work in the area of organizational culture. He defines it in this way. The culture of an organization is all the beliefs, feelings, behaviors, and symbols that are characteristic of an organization. More specifically, organizational culture is defined as shared philosophies, ideologies, beliefs, feelings, assumptions, expectations, attitudes, norms, and values. So in other words, culture is like the DNA of an organization. It encompasses not only the more formal elements, such as a company's mission, vision, values, and environment, but on a deeper level, it reflects all of those unspoken rules about how people operate within the organization to be successful. It is the internal personality of an organization, the set of values, beliefs, assumptions, and behavioral norms that influence our actions and pick up where the employee handbook leaves off in all the little decisions we make each day in the organization. For example, should I suggest innovative new ideas, or is it better to stay in the box doing the status quo? Should I admit it when I make a mistake and discuss openly what I learned from it, or should I sweep it under the rug and hide it, pretending it didn't happen? Should I speak up in a meeting when I disagree with someone or have an alternative idea? Or should I just keep silent and be polite? Culture is the undercurrent that guides and shapes our actions and behaviors in order to fit in with the expected norms of how things get done around here, the often unspoken shoulds and shouldn'ts that affect how we operate with each other. In short, company culture matters. As the following statistics show, organizations with strong and constructive workplace cultures not only attract and retain top talent, but keep those highly skilled employees engaged in their work and invested in the company. Research shows that a 10% improvement in an employee's understanding of values would result in an over 12% reduction in safety incidents, an over 8% decrease in turnover, and an over 4% increase in profitability. A Berzin by Deloitte study indicates that mission-driven companies have 30% higher levels of innovation and tend to be first or second in their market segments. Data collected by Aon Hewitt over a 10-year period of employee engagement surveys and company results showed that companies with an engaged culture have 30% greater customer satisfaction levels. A Columbia University study showed that the likelihood of turnover in a positive culture was just 13.9%, yet in a negative culture jumps up to 48.4%. With the Conference Board report showing 53% of Americans are unhappy in the workplace, and considering it costs between 30 and 150% of an employee's salary to fill a vacant position, companies cannot afford to risk losing employees. An additional study showed that 69% of employees would not take a job with a company that had a bad reputation, even if they were unemployed. And 84% would consider leaving their current jobs if they were offered another role with a company that had an excellent corporate reputation. So as we can see by these statistics and research, companies simply can't afford to take culture for granted. In an era of heightened corporate transparency, greater workforce mobility, severe skill shortages, culture, engagement, and retention have emerged as top issues for business leaders. So culture is trending. 87% of organizations cite culture and engagement as their top challenges, and more than 50% of executives agree that building a corporate culture to drive outcomes like productivity and profitability ratings are very important. That was from Deloitte's 2015 Global Human Capital Trends study. So most leaders do understand that their people are their biggest assets and that organizational culture is important to achieving company objectives. But in their pursuit of growth of strategic priorities, culture often takes the passenger seat. It is in the background, but not necessarily being actively managed. While some leaders and organizations may let organizational culture fall by the wayside and not take steps to proactively create it, others over-prioritize culture and give under-focus to business strategy. So how do we find that right balance between a focus on strategy or a focus on culture, and how and where do they intersect? There is a very popular phrase about culture that has the name of a meal in it, and I'm guessing most of you have heard it. Yes, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Peter Drucker, the management leadership guru, is credited with this phrase. Drucker certainly believed that a company's culture normally overpowers any attempt to implement a strategy that is incompatible with that culture. The two must be connected for optimal performance. I like to think of culture and strategy as brunch, joined and working together to help your organization achieve your mission and goals. Culture must be aligned with your business objectives. Organizational leaders must first define that clear organizational strategy, understand the company's place in the market, and have a clear plan of action for its bottom line and growth goals. Once those strategic objectives are in place, companies can begin identifying what are those core values and behavioral attributes that will help the organization achieve its strategic goals. For instance, if part of a company's competitive strategy is providing the highest quality customer service, the organization should then have congruent cultural values and behavioral expectations around providing that exceptional service. So we should be asking the question, Culture for what business purpose? Is your strategic goal to increase market penetration, improve your customer experience, develop innovative new products, create efficiencies and reduce costs, to grow through mergers and acquisitions? Then culture should be aligned with these goals, and a company's policies, processes, and practices should also then reflect the desired culture. For example, if a company wants an agile and innovative workplace, they will want to create channels for ideas to easily come forward and not set up a series of never-ending committees to get new ideas approved. If they want to be an engaged culture of employee empowerment, they will want to rethink that 75-page employee handbook filled with legalese. Some organizations say they value employee empowerment, yet every idea and decision needs to be brought to management for approval. As you think of culture and strategy working together as brunch, you'll want to ensure your internal operations are then also aligned with your desired culture. Torben Rick, an executive leader who writes extensively about organizational culture, frames up culture and strategy in this way. The strategy, goals, objectives, and activities are the guiding path, but your culture, values, practices, and behaviors are the driving path for helping your organization achieve its mission, vision, and desired results. What are the aspects of our culture that will help or hinder us? How will culture support or be a barrier to where we want to go? Once again, it reinforces the importance of culture and strategy being joined at the hip and working together. What you see on the screen now is one of my favorite cartoons about culture. It shows Dilbert's manager making the decision to make some changes to corporate culture. Dilbert's coworker says, "Let me guess what that means. We will work longer hours without extra pay. Management will stay the same and not change at all. We will call ourselves a team so it doesn't sound like work. And I predict there will be some vapid slogans printed on notepads and maybe some useless meetings." Dilbert and his coworker then say, "Is it just me or is the culture changing already? What's the next fad on the menu?" The boss then says, "I wonder if it's too late to rule by fear." Cultural values can't be platitudes on a coffee mug or a mouse pad and discussed just once a year at staff retreats. Culture is not just coming up with a new list of values to post on the wall. People don't believe what they read on the walls. They believe what they see and hear in the halls, what they experience on a day-to-day basis in the organization. Some companies tout work-life balance while people are consistently staying late and working extra hours. Some may say they value employee development, but in reality, employees can't get time out of the department to go to training. Some may say they value collaboration and diverse opinions, yet decisions are often made at higher levels without gathering input or collaborating. It is a lot like an online dating profile. You tell people about your cultural values, but what we espouse as values and put on the coffee mugs and mouse pads isn't always an accurate reflection of that true workplace culture. Well, people drive the culture then creates an employer brand. Great companies leverage their culture to promote their brand and differentiate their organizations. Companies such as Zappos, Southwest Airlines, Disney, and Google take pride in their culture and use it to promote who they are as an organization. Every interaction with an employee, a client, or a stakeholder is an opportunity to brand the organization. These very interactions are the ones that, over time, define the organization and the culture embedded in it. Take a look at the photo above, taken inside a very well-known organization. Does anyone recognize what company this is? Go ahead and type your guesses in that question box again. Yeah, we've got several good guesses and many of you got it. This is Google. With roughly 3 million resumes per year, Google is one of the most sought after employers today and one of the best examples for what a strong company culture can do. Google has been rated as the best place to work over and over in various rankings. And it's not just the perks like free food, massages, sports courts, cool office spaces, and good pay. Google has been often praised for its leadership and the strong mentorship programs inside the company. Google has constantly invested in learning about how people work best and how teams work best. Additionally, it communicates its values and what it stands for clearly in something called the 10 Things We Know to Be True. Another organization, 3M, had implemented a program called 15% Time, which allows employees to use some of their paid work time to chase rainbows and hatch their own ideas. It was during this time that scientist Art Fry invented one of the most renowned products of all time, yes, the 3M Post-it note. Taking its cue from 3M, Google started its own 20% time program, which resulted in the innovative creations of Gmail, Google Earth, and Google Talk, to name just a few. All right, how about this next picture? I'll let you go ahead and type in the question box again your guesses on what notable company you might be seeing here. Good. Almost everybody is getting this one. This is Zappos, and it's one of the largest online retailers. They started selling shoes online back in 1999 and expanded to a $1 billion business by 2008. Zappos CEO Tony Hsieh is a big supporter for developing a strong company culture. He believes the #1 priority is culture, and that if you get culture right, most of the other things like delivering great customer service or building a long-term enduring brand will just happen naturally. Early on, Hsieh decided that Zappos would be known as the best customer service and the best customer experience company. Employees are encouraged to go beyond traditional customer service, so they don't have any limits on call times in their call center. The longest support call to date at Zappos, 10 hours and 29 minutes. There are numerous notable support stories that have also made the news, further spreading the news about Zappos' unique culture. Zappos also randomly surprises their customers with upgrade offers. They protect their company culture by hiring for cultural fit. They talk about company culture all through the hiring process, and months can pass between the initial interview and the actual offer. All new hires spend some time taking customer calls, and if Zappos doesn't think they're the right fit by the end of their probationary period, they are offered $3,000 to leave the company. Zappos is an organization that takes corporate culture very seriously. In the last photo, it's a bit of a giveaway. You may see the Southwest airline hats with the planes on them and may recognize the famous face of Herb Kelleher, their former CEO. Southwest Airlines is a service leader and zeroes in on behavior, not just the resume, during the hiring process for cultural fit. They fly candidates in for an interview, and gate and flight crew then report back on their attitude and how they behaved. Southwest believes that you may be able to fake a good attitude in an interview, but your true colors come out when you're dealing with the hassle of travel, large groups of people, and small spaces. Southwest has been in operation for 43 years, and during all that time, the company has managed to communicate its goals and vision to employees in a way that makes them feel part of a unified team and something very special. Southwest also gives employees permission to go that extra mile to make customers happy, empowering them to do what they need to do to please the customer. The company has been profitable for 43 consecutive years, and its legendary culture is one of its greatest assets. Founder Herb Kelleher is credited with instilling the idea that happy employees create happy customers and profitability follows. With their core values of warrior spirit, servant's heart, and fun-loving attitude, Southwest asks employees to embody hard work, perseverance, proactive customer service, and lighthearted fun in everything they do. Managers are encouraged to hire for attitude and train for skill, and their culture has been a key recipe for success for Southwest Airlines. The takeaway here: an employee who believes in a larger common strategic mission and goal feels more engaged as part of that larger purpose. So at this point, we've discussed what culture really means, why it matters to organizations, the importance of culture and strategy working hand in hand, aligned with your mission and business goals, and we've seen examples of companies who have differentiated themselves through creating notable workplace cultures. With culture impacting the talent, the product, the clients, as well as the revenue, why would a company not measure, review, and intentionally nurture something so important and critical to its success? If leaders work to define it, assess it, and understand it, culture can actually be used as a tangible business lever to directly achieve goals and improve performance. Yet only 12% of organizations report that they have a full understanding of their workplace culture. Only 19% indicate they feel they have the right culture to achieve their business goals. So finding ways to accurately measure and assess culture are critically important to organizations and their ability to perform. Here at the Wisconsin School of Business Center for Professional and Executive Development, we work with many organizations to help them measure their workplace culture using some very well-researched and validated tools that I want to share with you. Human Synergistics has had an international reputation for innovation in the field of culture. Robert Cook, PhD, and J. Clayton Lafferty, PhD, have conducted extensive research in creating and validating the renowned Organizational Culture Inventory, or OCI for short. The OCI is the world's most thoroughly researched and widely used culture assessment for measuring organizational culture on a circumplex. The OCI goes beyond corporate culture, company culture, and workplace culture, and the cultural dimensions it measures apply to all types of organizations and industries. As you can see in the image, the circumplex breaks down the factors underlying performance effectiveness at the individual, group, and organizational levels according to 12 behaviors or styles. These styles are further grouped according to 3 general clusters. The constructive styles encourage the attainment of organizational goals through people development, promoting teamwork and synergy, and enhancing individual, group, and organizational adaptability and effectiveness. The aggressive defensive styles lead people to focus on their own needs and at the expense of those of their group and the organization, and these can lead to stress, turnover, and inconsistent performance. The passive defensive styles can stifle creativity and initiative and allow the organization to stagnate. The blue, green, and red extensions on the circumplex graphically show statistical results from the culture inventory tool and how strong each style is in the organization. You can quickly see your results and how they compare with those of thousands of other organizations that have been a part of the benchmarking research. The OCI is a very comprehensive tool that we won't have time to show and review in depth today, but I wanted you to be aware of this important tool and well-validated instrument for measuring corporate culture. One of the things I personally really like about this specific tool when we work with our clients is that it allows for the opportunity for an organization to first define what their ideal culture is based on what they're trying to achieve, and then measure their actual culture and clearly see the gaps between the ideal and the actual culture. An additional organizational measurement tool I wanted to make you aware of that can be helpful to measure the work environment is called the Organizational Effective Index, or OEI, also from Human Synergistics. This provides organizations with measures of their performance along individual, group, and organizational outcomes. So like an engagement survey, you can see breakout groups in the OEI. It looks at internal factors and conditions that can have an impact on performance and can serve as levers for cultural change. It helps organizations identify targets for changing and improving engagement and performance, and identifies levers to help an organization move from their current cultural state to their ideal state. Using these 2 tools simultaneously helps organizations get a clear and accurate picture of where their climate and culture currently stand, helps identify barriers that are impeding organizational performance, and determine a clear path forward for transforming their culture in a way that will help them achieve their strategic business goals and optimize overall engagement and performance. Organizations may find that cultural transformation is needed to help them achieve their desired strategic outcomes. Over time, cultures generally evolve along with business strategy, and they become mutually reinforcing. The problem can arise when the organizational leadership decides to implement a new strategy or change the direction that requires changes to the way people think and act at work. While a new strategy can, in principle, be adopted overnight, culture change takes considerably more time and effort, and the continued existence of older attitudes and older behavior patterns can seriously weaken the ability to implement the desired new direction. As the statistics above show, many organizations feel they've got some work to do when it comes to organizational culture. 96% said that some form of culture change was needed in their organization. That's a huge number. 33% of employees don't believe their company's core values align with their personal values, and 19% don't understand their core values or simply don't know them. So how does an organization begin to approach an undertaking as significant as cultural transformation? Full cultural transformation needs to be planned, as it is such a significant undertaking, but an organization can absolutely take some initial basic steps to begin addressing culture by thinking through some of the questions noted here. So start by identifying a key strategic initiative in your organization. Perhaps you're implementing a new product strategy or differentiating yourself in the market in a new way. Perhaps you're going through a merger or acquisition. So identify what that key strategic initiative is. Then ask, what are the current cultural strengths in our organization that will help us successfully achieve that initiative? Also talk about what are the current cultural barriers in your organization that might hinder you from successfully achieving that initiative. Where are your current behavioral norms not aligned with where you want to go as an organization? What are 3 to 4 key behaviors that must become cultural norms to help your organization move in the direction that you desire? How can you derive, encourage, and enable those needed behaviors? How could you build those behavioral expectations into your talent management practices? But real cultural transformation is a true journey. We can't just declare a new culture and put some new values on the wall. It needs to be planned for. Once again, we see that it starts with strategy. Identify your strategic business goals and your desired results. Determine what is the ideal culture that will support the business outcomes that we want to achieve. You then want to assess your current culture using a well-researched and valuable tool like the OCI that we showed you. This step is so important as the assessment will help you identify your current cultural strengths as well as the barriers to focus on to help you move in the new direction. Another key piece of cultural transformation is assessing and engaging leaders at all levels in those cultural transformation efforts. Many organizations also choose to conduct leadership assessments when undergoing cultural transformation, as leaders are such a key part of driving and modeling workplace cultural norms, and leaders will be critical to that cultural transformation effort. We also want to approach transformation as an important change management initiative in the organization. We need to dedicate the time and resources to tracking and managing the transformation. Have a full change management plan in place for creating buy-in, a communication plan, a plan for tracking milestones and progress along the way. You want to measure progress and recalibrate as organizational strategy shifts and evolves. We don't develop our culture and then we're done. Culture is something that is constantly evolving, shifting, and moving. It can take years to change a culture, but the cultural transformation journey can start now, and we've highlighted some of the ways that you can get started. In summary, we've discussed the meaning of culture and why it matters. We've highlighted some important statistics showing how culture impacts the bottom line and organizational business outcomes. We've noted how culture and engagement have risen to the top of the list of factors organizations are paying attention to. We've talked about the importance of culture and strategy being aligned and working synergistically, and we've highlighted some notable organizations who use culture to differentiate their business. We've talked about the importance of measuring culture, and we have shared some sample tools like the OCI and OEI from Human Synergistics. Lastly, we've identified a quick way to get started thinking about culture and strategy and identifying some key behaviors to focus on cultivating as cultural norms. And we've highlighted some high-level steps in how to think about and approach cultural transformation to get culture and strategy fully aligned, identify the strengths and barriers, and determine a change management approach for your cultural transformation initiative. In summary, a company culture is unique and provides arguably the most sustainable competitive advantage an organization can have in the marketplace for distinguishing itself against the competition. Competitors may attempt to poach employees, steal customers, and duplicate the product or service an organization has worked hard to develop, but culture, like the brand, becomes the fabric of an organization. The stronger the culture and the brand, the more difficult it is for competitors to pose a threat to the organization. A strong and thriving culture will establish a foundation for success, attract and retain top talent, help promote the brand of your organization, increase your employee engagement, drive productivity and optimal performance, and help distinguish you from your competitors. I'd like to leave you with some recommendations for additional reading on culture. Here are 4 books I felt were valuable resources. The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, Culture by Design by David J. Friedman, The Performance Culture by Daryl W. Ray, and The Culture Cycle by James Heskett. And we at Wisconsin School of Business Center for Professional and Executive Development love to help organizations identify and address their cultural challenges and opportunities. So please do feel free to contact us if you are interested in exploring any of the tools that we talked about today, like the OCI or OEI from Human Synergistics. Or if you have other needs for leadership or professional development, assessments, coaching, or consulting. Thank you so much for participating as we discuss this really important topic of culture. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to you and open it up for questions. So one of the questions is, are there any suggestions on how to overcome blockers of cultural change? So suggestions on how to overcome blockers to cultural change. I think the first step is understanding what those blockers are. So again, I'm a believer in using the culture assessments to really take a look and assess your current culture and where is it helping you attain your goals and where are there cultural norms that are standing in the way of achieving your business goals. So I think knowing what those blockers are the first step. And then in terms of the fastest way to change a toxic culture, once an organization defines that ideal culture that they're looking to attain, what those behaviors and cultural norms are, then it's about embedding those in your talent management practices. It's about embedding them in how you recruit and hire employees, embedding them in your performance review and performance management processes, embedding it in your development, your talent and training and development practices, your succession planning processes. So it's really about creating that set of expectations for the types of behavioral norms you want in the organization and having some accountability tied to those and having your practices aligned with those. If we want to implement the OCI and or OEI, will your team come in and facilitate it? Absolutely, that's exactly what we do. So we will help you through the entire process. We start with generally meeting with your senior leadership team first, learning about your strategy. We've talked a lot in this webinar about the importance of aligning culture with strategy, and that's one of the things that I like about the OCI and OEI is that understanding strategy is a part of the process. So we learn a lot about you as an organization and what you're striving for, what you want to achieve, and then we bring in the assessments and we help guide you through that entire process and facilitate it for you. Then based on the results of the assessment, we can also help you figure out your next steps in implementing cultural transformation. Another question on how long does cultural transformation typically take? Well, I don't know that I've seen a set number, but we know that cultural transformation can take years. I personally have been involved in organizations as an organizational development professional as organizations have gone through mergers and acquisitions. And I would say even 5 years later, there's still some remnants of the old culture, even though the organization has made significant efforts to align the culture and create a new culture. So we know that changing organizational culture really takes time. It is a journey. Another question, I work for a healthcare organization with many off-site clinics. Is it expected that each clinic would have their own culture? That's an excellent question. Yeah, so typically organizations have organizational level cultures and values, but there are also many subcultures that can happen within teams. So yes, cultures are at both the organizational level and at the team level. Sometimes you can have a team with, you can have an organization that has a very positive culture, yet you can be working with a team that has a very non-constructive culture. So yes, there can absolutely be differences between organizational level culture and team subcultures. How do we engage with, thank you, how do we engage with you to put together a proposal to facilitate the OCI and OEI process? John, I believe our contact information is here on the.
Yep, so the slides that we sent out after today's presentation, our contact information is listed on there. You'll also be receiving a survey, as I mentioned, asking for your feedback on today's program. And within that survey, you'll be able to indicate if you'd like us to contact you to provide more information, or again, any additional information related to any of the services we offer, including the OCI and OE work.
We'll take another question. Are the OCI and OEI tools the result of every employee completing the tool or just management's assessment of the tool? I'm assuming the tool is distributed to all employees. So that's something that's determined. That's a great question. That's something that's determined as we start to work with an organization and the leadership team. So some smaller organizations might choose to do the OCI and or OEI across the whole organization. Other organizations might choose to do it just at the leadership level or at the location-based level or function level. So we determine that as we work with the leadership team and talk about how they, what they want to achieve with their cultural transformation efforts. So it can be done as a whole organization or broken out. How can I get my team to go along with cultural change? Well, again, cultural change is a journey, and the first step starts with really defining what we want that ideal culture to look like and setting those expectations for what the behavioral norms look like. I think getting a team to go along with it and buy into cultural change takes time, and leaders are a big part of making that change successful. It's very important for leaders to model the types of behaviors that you're trying to cultivate in your organization. If we're trying to cultivate an organization of respect and service, yet leaders are not demonstrating those cultural behaviors, desired cultural behaviors themselves, it's very difficult to then get employees to model those behaviors or use those behaviors. So I think defining them, making it clear what those behavioral expectations are, and then modeling them as leaders is important. And then also talking with your employees regularly about behavioral expectations and values in the organization.
Okay, thank you everybody for your questions. And Tracy, I want to thank you for your expertise and insight today. And thank you for everyone who joined us on the program today as well. So don't forget to sign up for the next webinar in the series, which is Mastering the Power of Influence. And that'll be held on Wednesday, September 25th. You'll see more information coming out about that webinar. So we hope you can join us for that one. And in the meantime, as I mentioned a couple times, you will be receiving the survey about today's webinar in your email in the next day or so. You'll also be getting a link to the recording of today's webinar, and we will be making the slides available as well. So please keep an eye out for all of that. So thank you again for your attendance and participation, and we hope everyone has a wonderful day.